Lesson 14, Part 1, Voice in English. Voice is a characteristic of a verb that tells if the subject is doing the action or being acted on. English has two voices, active and passive. In the active voice, the subject is doing the action. In the passive voice, the subject is being acted on or receiving the action. I am sending a letter. This is in the active voice because the I is the one doing the sending. A letter is being sent. This sentence is passive. The letter is not the one doing the sending. The letter is the one that's being acted on. It's what in an active sentence above is the direct object. It's actually receiving the action. We've flipped it around grammatically, but in the meaning of the sentence, it is still receiving the action of the verb, even though it's the subject of the sentence. So this verb is in the passive voice, or we could say that even the whole sentence is in the passive voice. He is hitting me. He is the subject, and he is the one that is doing the action. I am being hit. This is a passive sentence. I am not the one doing the hitting. I am the one who is receiving the hitting. So this sentence is in the passive voice. We've mentioned before that English has 9 common verb tenses, which are actually 3 tenses and 3 aspects. All of these tenses can show up in the active or passive voices, except for the future progressive, which is just a bit weird. So let's take a look. I eat is the simple present. I am eaten is the simple present passive. I ate is the simple past active. I was eaten is the simple past passive. I will eat is the simple future active. I will be eaten is the simple future passive. I was eating is the past progressive active, and I was being eaten is the past progressive passive. I am eating is the present progressive active, and I am being eaten is the past progressive passive. Sorry, present progressive passive. I will be eating is the future progressive active, and I will be being eaten would technically be the future progressive passive, but that doesn't quite work. We would never actually say that sentence. In linguistics, if you see an asterisk in front of a sentence like this or in front of a word, it means that that is grammatically incorrect in that language. And this is technically grammatically incorrect in English. It hypothetically works, but it doesn't actually work. I had eaten is the past perfect active. I had been eaten is the past perfect passive. I have eaten is the present perfect active, and I have been eaten is the present perfect passive. And lastly, I will have eaten is the future perfect active, and I will have been eaten is the future perfect passive. In English, we have 4 forms of our verbs: present, present participle, past, and past participle. Now, do not confuse these with the tenses. They have nothing to do with the tense that they convey. So in the above example, which is now listed off to the right, the present form is eat, the present participle form is eating, the past form is ate, and the past participle form is eaten. It will be very important in the next slide here. So a form of the verb be is always present in the passive verb right before the past participle of the verb. We said that eaten was the past participle form, and you'll see that we have the past participle form for every single form that's in the passive. Now, there are some other reasons why we would use the past participle form. You'll notice they show up in all of the perfect tenses as well. We don't need to worry about that for the moment. For the moment, what we're concerned about is that we always have a form of the past participle when we're looking at the passive voice. The other thing we have is a form of the verb be. So you can see am, form of be, was, form of be, form of be, being, form of be, being, form of be, been, form of be. Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, and been are all forms of the verb be. So you will always have a form of the verb be right in front of the past participle in a passive verb. And that's how you're going to need to translate them as well. You'll need a form of be right in front of a a past participle form of the verb. Now, for the progressive tenses, they already have a form of the verb be. So now they have two forms of the verb be. You can see that here in the past progressive passive and the present progressive passive. I was being eaten and I am being eaten. You'll notice that for progressive tenses, whether that's active or passive, there does need to be a form of the verb be, and there needs to be an ing form. So we still have a form of the verb be to make it progressive with an ing form to make it progressive, but now we have an additional form of be with a past participle that makes it both progressive and passive at the same time. And if you want to see the difference between past progressive and present progressive, you can see that it's whatever tense this first helping verb is. If it's am, that's a present, so present progressive. If it's was, that's a past, that's past progressive. So this am being blanked form is the one we're going to be concerned with in this lesson. I am being eaten. I am being kicked. I am being shown. That kind of form right there, that's the one that we're going to be concerned with in this lesson as we dig into the Greek. So summary, voice is a characteristic of a verb that tells if the subject is doing the action or being acted on. In the active voice, the subject is doing the action. In the passive voice, the subject is being acted on or receiving the action. A form of the verb be is always present in a passive voice verb right before the past participle of the verb.